Just want to talk about the difference between the left and right wing for a second, and the right wing and the far right wing. Um, so the left right dichotomy originated in France around the time of the French Revolution in the late 18th century, where the king was at one end of the hall. It would have been Louis the 16th, and the people to his right were the kind of establishment, and the people to his left were the kind of revolutionaries and the people that wanted change. People on the right wanted the status quo and to remain and that kind of thing. So it could have easily been the other way around. And as Roger Scruton likes to joke, or liked to joke, it was the other way around for everyone else but the king. So basically, people think that the left right continuum is just a straight line. But Gadsad had a much more apt analogy with the left right dichotomy. It's known as the horseshoe hypothesis, or the horseshoe concept. Now, I'm not sure it originated with Gad, but he's who I got it from anyway. So a horseshoe is kind of like a U shape, and each end of the horseshoe is the far right is one end, the far left is the other end, and then it comes around to the political center. So the idea being that the far right and the far left are actually closer to each other than they are to the political center. And when you look at some things that they have in common, like their susceptibility to authoritarianism, for example, it starts to make sense. Another thing I notice with the far left and the far right is the anti-Semitism. Now, the anti-Semitism on the far right is well documented historically, obviously. But in recent years, you see it on the far left. It's not the right-wing party in England, if you can call the Conservative Party a right-wing party. They're kind of a centrist party, really, that had a problem with anti-Semitism in recent years. It was the left-wing Socialist Party, the Labour Party, that had a problem with anti-Semitism. You saw some of the Labour Party members post some of the most disgusting anti-Semitism on social media and other places. And where did they get this stuff? They get it off kind of the alt-right websites and that kind of thing. So on certain issues, they are in sync. So I'm a right-winger, but I'm certainly not a far right-winger. I have very, very little in common with the far right people, and I have no time for them at all. I think they're pretty pathetic, most of them, with their claims of racial superiority and this kind of stuff. Just as I find the far left absolutely pathetic as well. And another difference that I see between ordinary conservatives like myself and the far right is, at a Trump rally, and I wasn't a Trump supporter necessarily, but I would have voted for him if I was American rather than the terrible alternatives. You would see things like Israel flags at Trump rallies in the States, or say a Tommy Robinson gathering in England, and people call Tommy Robinson far right. He's not far right. He's not. You don't see Israel flags being flown at a far right rally. They hate the Jews. They hate Israel. They're anti-Semitic. We saw it in the States at Charlottesville with the tiki torches and the chants of the Jews will not replace us. You will not see an Israel flag at a far right rally at all. But you see Israel flags constantly at Tommy Robinson rallies. Now, I'm not necessarily making any claims about Tommy Robinson. Maybe that's for another video. But no, ordinary conservatives are big supporters of Israel, actually, including myself. Even though there's blame on both sides, and there always is. Same with Northern Ireland. So yeah, the far right and the far left have way more in common, than they like to make out. They're not polar opposites. In ways, they're just as irrational as one another. They are obsessed with skin color. They're obsessed with race, where the rest of us don't care about skin color. We want skin color to become like hair color. It's completely irrelevant. You don't meet a redhead and say, oh, well, as a person with red hair, this is my opinion. Or as a blonde, this is my opinion. It's not central to your identity, the color of your hair. That's the way all the rest of us want skin color to go. Like, when I meet somebody, the color of their skin tells me absolutely nothing about them. It doesn't tell me anything interesting about them. It doesn't tell me anything about their morality, their intellect, what they value in life, what kind of a person they are, what kind of a sense of humor they have, or lack thereof. It tells me nothing about the person. So it's completely irrelevant what somebody's skin color is. But the left divide everybody along the lines of skin color. They want black only dorms in the States and at universities. They want black only graduation, black only safe spaces, and this kind of stuff. That will hit England eventually if it's not there already. And the right, of course, divide along racial lines. They have this, white supremacist kind of ideology where white people are somehow superior, and they want an ethnically homogenous state and that kind of thing, which is just as crazy in my opinion. So yeah, both sides have way more in common than they like to make out, and both sides are completely irrational and pathetic in my opinion.